February 23rd, 2025. Welcome to the final show of February. Wow. Incredible that we're almost to Oscar Sunday already. It's next Sunday. SAG Awards today. My thoughts, my predictions coming up. We'll get to the box office. We'll get to some movies I caught up on. Some new movies opening up this week. I'll say as much as I can about some of them and more. Welcome to LCJ Live. As always, send in your questions, your comments. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you. Red Hulk is here. Harrison Ford. I like Captain America Brave New World, and I'm happy to see it's number one again. But a big drop from last weekend's $88.5 million 3-day down to $28.2 million this weekend. That's a $60 million drop for Captain America Brave New World. Not great for Marvel. Kind of similar to what happened with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania 2 years ago. Captain America's up to $141.2 million for Disney. Is it going to hit 200 million, which Ant-Man barely did? It's going to get interesting. We're going to have, this weekend's kind of quiet coming up, some smaller movies, and then Mickey 17 opens, and then Looney Tunes comes out, and then Snow White, and then it gets a little quiet again, and it's going to be an interesting March. It's not going to be, I don't think, quite the mega movie March that we've had in the past, though there are some big films, but we've had mega movie March a couple years ago and some other time periods. So it's going to be an interesting time for theaters and the box office for sure, with Oscars finally happening next Sunday, and those movies finally will exit theaters at some point, and the new movies come in. How many of them are really going to be successful? Is Mickey 17, which is already getting mixed reviews, going to turn some people away, or will the diehard Bong Joon-ho fans say, I'm going no matter what, and love it? We'll see what happens. For now, Captain America, your winner again. There's Red Hulk, Harrison Ford. I recommend the film. I like it. I had a better time with it than most of the Marvel movies the last 5-6 years. It's more pleasant. It's more grounded. It's not quite as silly. It's not arrogant. So many of these other MCU movies the last several years, Deadpool and Wolverine among them, but a lot of the other ones just felt arrogant, felt desperate for a story. And this Captain America doesn't feel quite like that. So I enjoyed it. Number 2 this weekend is The Monkey. It opened to $14.2 million. That is the second biggest neon open ever, behind director Oz Perkins' other film recently, Long Legs from last summer, which opened to $22.4 million. So a little less than that. Cut that into a third of that is not here, but still $14.2 million is solid, and we'll see if it has legs over the next several weeks. I did not see The Monkey. I've been catching up on other movies. I had personal things and other stuff going on. So I will get to The Monkey, I believe, at some point. But $14.2 million for Neon, second biggest open, and already their 7th biggest film of all time. So Neon's happy. They're keeping the relationship, I believe, with Oz Perkins going. There may be another film on the way. So there you go. Neon is thrilled today. They're also thrilled that they may have the Best Picture Oscar winner. They may have the big SAG winner tonight. I'm going to talk about the SAG Awards in a little bit, and that's Anora. Anora did very well yesterday at the Independent Spirit Awards. Spirit Awards, Critics' Choice, DGA, WGA, and some BAFTA wins. Even though it didn't do well at the Golden Globes, that feels like forever ago. And look at these other award shows, and Anora has done very well. And Mikey Madison may swipe this Oscar away from Demi Moore, who I thought had it for sure after the Globes, that speech, and the Critics' Choice win. Here comes Mikey Madison. We'll have to see what happens tonight at SAG. But if Mikey Madison wins tonight at SAG, I'm probably picking her to win the Oscar. But if it's Demi Moore, I'm going to have to flip a coin, because so many people are waiting until after tonight's SAG Awards to make their Oscar predictions. And I start doing appearances tomorrow for some outlets for Oscar picks, so I got to make some quick decisions. I've still got several categories to do on my ballot, and I'm taking a couple risks this year. I know I am, and taking some chances, and it's going to be really interesting to see what happens when it comes to the Oscars. But when it comes to the rest of this weekend's box office, Paddington in Peru dropped 50%. So it made $6.5 million this weekend. It's only a 25.3. Remember, Paddington 2 only grossed $40 million domestically. So not a huge box office total for Paddington 2, and not great numbers for Paddington in Peru right now. During the week, Kids had school off this week in much of the country, including Monday for President's Day. And Dogman beat Paddington in Peru on Monday. Dogman in fourth this weekend, 5.9 million. It's at 78.8, and it passed Captain Underpants, the first epic movie from 2017, which totaled about 73, 74 million for DreamWorks back in 2017. Same author, Dave Pilkey. So when you adjust for inflation and you total what Dogman will end up with, probably 85 to 90 million, that's about the same audience. Bigger open for sure, Dogman versus Captain Underpants, but about the same audience going to see Dogman. Maybe it'll have legs over the next several weeks, although several animated films open up over the next couple weeks. Pete Crook's Paddington Peru has huge worldwide numbers. Yes, that is true, that it has done well over 100 million overseas. But here in America, as much as people loved Paddington 2, and the first Paddington made 77 million, Paddington 2 only did 40, and this Paddington may struggle to get to that or much more beyond $40 million. Number 5 this weekend, animated film, the foreign film, Ninja 2, made $3 million. It's at 14.8. That's very good. Number 6 is Heart Eyes. Had a big drop because it had a big boost for Valentine's Day. It did 10.5 million last weekend, down to 2.9 this weekend. 26.8 million for Sony. They'll take that big Valentine's Day win, though. They will really enjoy that. And Pete Crook's Dogman only has big numbers in North America. There you go. Some films play better in North America versus overseas, or vice versa. Number 7 this weekend is a tie, essentially. Mufasa the Lion King, the only 2024 film still in the weekend box office top 10, added 2.5 million. It's at 245.4 for Disney. And The Unbreakable Boy only opened to 2.5 million for Lionsgate. This is so much less than some of their other faith-based films and February releases of faith-based films. Jesus Revolution opened to 15.5 million, totaled $52 million a few years ago. Last year, we had Ordinary Angels, which opened to 6 million, totaled about 19. Even that I thought was low. And then you had American Underdog, which Zachary Levi was in for Lionsgate. He played Kurt Warner. I like that film much more than The Unbreakable Boy. That totaled 26.5 million at the end of 2021 into early 2022. Zachary Levi was much better in American Underdog, and I actually liked Zachary Levi in Harold and the Purple Crayon because he was sort of restrained a little bit. It was a little different. Yes, it was a freeing performance, but still, when you watched Harold and the Purple Crayon, it was not quite what I expected it to be. I actually, for young kids, Harold and the Purple Crayon is a solid film, and that opened to 6 million last summer, totaled 17. This film, The Unbreakable Boy, is not going to do that. 2.5 million is so much lower than I think Lionsgate expected, but they've moved the movie around so many times. It was filmed like 3 years ago, I believe. So, not a good weekend for that, and not a good film. It really tries to move you emotionally in manipulative ways. The story has some corny decisions to it, and it focuses more on the parents than the kids, and it doesn't work, and Zachary Levi's performance is not great. So there's a lot against The Unbreakable Boy here. It's not a good film, and it did not perform well. Faith-based films are often judged on a different curve. Almost none are worthwhile despite good intentions, says Pete Crooks. Some of them are great. I like Jesus Revolution a lot. Kelsey Grammer is outstanding in that film. One of his all-time best performances is in Jesus Revolution. He puts a lot of care into that. Hilary Swank and Alan Ritchson are both great in Ordinary Angels. There's been some other ones I Still Believe Lionsgate had out in March of 2020, just before COVID. It made a little bit of money before COVID. So they've had better success with some of these faith-based films than this one, Unbreakable Boy, although there's not a lot of the faith-based angle in it. It's a supporting factor for sure, but I wish the film was better, and I think Lionsgate wishes it made more money. Number 9 this weekend is a film that ended up in the top 10 last weekend. I thought it was the second week of becoming Led Zeppelin. It is actually Chava. Chava now in this weekend in 9th. Added 1.5 million. It's at 4.8. And then rounding out your top 10 this weekend is One of Them Days with another 1.4 million. It's at $46 million. Sony very happy with that. Now, we don't have the money yet on Cleaner, which starred Daisy Ridley, which opened in a good number of theaters this weekend. I didn't see it, but maybe Cleaner sneaks into the top 10. We'll have to see. As I mentioned, I did catch up on some films like Becoming Led Zeppelin. Let me tell you about Becoming Led Zeppelin. This film is a party. I didn't love it because as a music documentary and a biographical documentary and as a documentary itself, it's lightweight. There's not a lot to it. It's very positive. It's very one-sided in that factor, and it doesn't give you a ton of information. It stops at a certain point, and it's these long stretches of them just playing. But the music, I mean, it almost puts you in a hypnotic state. Like the some of the other ones, Moon Age Daydream, the David Bowie one, but I like that film more than this, though I didn't think it was amazing. I had some issues with Moon Age Daydream. The editing is excellent, but some of it went off and it was too long. And kind of the same thing here with Becoming Led Zeppelin. It is too long. There's too much of the music. It is 2 hours and it feels it. But it's a party. So I think for diehard fans of Led Zeppelin, you go to it, you'll probably have a good time. But compared to some of these other documentaries, it doesn't have a lot of substance to it. Speaking of documentaries, I caught up on the Sly Stone one, directed by Questlove on Hulu, Sly Lives, this week. I caught up on that. Not nearly as good as Summer of Soul. Summer of Soul had so much more genuine emotion to it and felt raw and was moving. This one, it's kind of divided in half, and the saga is predictable. You can feel what's coming even if you don't know the full story. Because it's the rise and fall of musicians. So you look at these music documentaries and go, okay, here's Becoming Led Zeppelin, which is avant-garde, but it didn't quite work. And here's Sly Lives, which is a little more traditional style, but also didn't work. But then there are others that work much better. I mean, I've seen so many of these music biodocs. So Sly Lives, I don't think is exceptional filmmaking. There's not much about the filmmaking that is unique or powerful. It's okay, but it's not what Summer of Soul was. And it'll be interesting what Questlove decides to do next, if he continues with music documentaries or if he wants to maybe go down a different path with his next subjects for his documentaries. I was a little surprised that they kind of threw this on Hulu and Disney Plus with not a lot of promotion behind it. And I can see why, because the movie just doesn't have the juice to it that Summer of Soul did. I want to mention Parthenope. Let's talk about it. Whoa! I watched this last night. Paolo Sorrentino's new movie. It's great. It is. I love Youth. Youth was my number one film in 2015, and The Hand of God is very good. I still have to see The Great Beauty, but this movie, Parthenope, it's got what Paolo Sorrentino is known for, which is great dialogue, characters that you latch onto emotionally. I mean, she is great. Her name is, and I want to get it right, Celeste Della Porta. Excellent performance, because what the movie is about is this young woman on this life adventure, discovering herself. First as a young woman, about 18, then she's 23, and then a little older. And it's Italy in the 70s. And her main, I mean, what she does when it comes to observing other people is fantastic. And that's one of the main themes of the movie. But also, it's this gorgeous cinematography. It's the dialogue. Gary Oldman has a supporting role. And it's the music. And it's this aura about it that you are transported to this time. And then there's the layers and layers of political commentary that Paolo Sorrentino includes in the script that are deep and interesting. And also, you just follow this character's journey. And you go, wow, what a journey we go on that has surprises, that you meet people along the way. You find the unexpected quirks of life. You see these surprises. You're in these unfortunate circumstances and these situations. And how do you handle all of that? How do you handle tragedy? How do you handle the party atmosphere? There's a lot going on in this movie. And it reminded me a lot of Youth in some ways, of kind of the eccentric nature of it, and some of the entertainment industry commentary, and about being a diva and being that persona. You had Jane Fonda in Youth. There's some scenes of that in this. But also The Hand of God was this very intimate family drama, and there's a little bit of that in here as well, along with other elements. Yeah, check it out. A24 should be giving this a proper theatrical run. And just like last year with Problemista, I caught up on that a few weeks later when it wasn't getting a full wide release. And that was number 4 for my entire year. This may end up on the 10 best list, along with another film I've seen that I cannot share yet, but later in March, I can tell you about a film that probably will end up on my 10 best list for the year. So go see Partenope. It's excellent. If it's playing near you, go see it. It's gotten mixed reviews for some reason. But if you love Paolo Sorrentino's films, it's right in line with the other two. So you gotta go see it. All right, comments are coming in here. Scott Stallion's going to Purple Rain in Dolby. Joan K. finally caught a live stream. My girlfriend and I are huge fans. Thank you very much. Thanks for being here for LCJ Live as I dive into Paolo Sorrentino's movies. But we're also going to talk about the SAG Awards here in a second. I want to mention that I have a new podcast episode with the makers of Family Guy, the showrunners. Go to lcj.podbean.com and animationscoop.com for that. The passing of Lynn Marie Stewart, who played Miss Siobhan on Pee-wee's Playhouse. Rest in peace to her. And the movie's opening this week. Last Breath with Woody Harrelson, which I'll be checking out at some point. 2 films with Ed Harris. I have seen both. Riff Raff and My Dead Friend Zoe. And I'll tell you about both of those via when the social media embargoes lift tomorrow for both Riff Raff and My Dead Friend Zoe. For animation fans, I've seen A Sloth Story. I enjoyed A Sloth Story because it's got a grounded feel to it. It's an animated comedy adventure about the restaurant industry, but this family of sloths, and they get into the food truck game, and it's about the restaurant game. It's nice for families, and I like the visual style of it and the grounded approach to it, and there's some layers to the story for sure. So check out A Sloth Story in select theaters on Friday. Other films coming out this week, No Address and Brothers After War, along with Superboys of Melagayon. Mentioned Spirit Awards were yesterday. Honora did very well. Mikey Madison, also Kieran Culkin and Jesse Eisenberg won for A Real Pain. The tricky thing about A Real Pain when it comes to making your Oscar predictions is it's only 2 nominations are for Kieran Culkin and Jesse Eisenberg for the screenplay. It didn't get Best Picture nomination. It didn't get Director. It didn't get anything else. So can A Real Pain win? It's only 2 Oscars that it's up for. And one of them is an acting award, and one of them is a writing award. Can it do that? That will be interesting, and that's what I got to wrestle with. I mean, if Kieran Culkin wins tonight at the SAG Awards, I'm picking him to win the Oscar. But is Jesse Eisenberg going to win the Oscar too? That I have to figure out as I finalize my Oscar predictions. So the SAG Awards tonight. Best Actor is probably Adrian Brody. If there's an upset, maybe Timothée Chalamet, maybe Ray Fiennes. Conclave, still a contender for picture. Actress in a leading role. At this point, it's going to be Mikey Madison, but hey, I could see Demi Moore winning this. I could see Cynthia Erivo winning this because of Wicked. I still think Wicked has a shot at winning acting ensemble because of how much money it made. I wrote a blog piece a year or 2 ago about how the blockbuster movies often do well at SAG or the performances. Yes, Oppenheimer last year, but also, remember Johnny Depp won for the first Pirates of the Caribbean, which was the big blockbuster. So you never know. Emily Blunt won for A Quiet Place, made a ton more money, more people saw it than some of the other films in that category that year. You never know. The blockbuster movie, keep that in mind for SAG, which has such a big voting body. I voted for SAG Awards a while back. Supporting actor, probably Kieran Culkin, maybe Edward Norton, maybe Jeremy Strong. Supporting actress, very likely Zoe Saldana. I don't see Ariana Grande pulling off an upset at this point, but again, look out for the blockbuster movie. And the fact that SAG Awards voting was still going on through Friday. Just a couple days ago, it ended. So you never know. You just never know. And then we have acting ensemble. It could really go to any of these. Honora, A Complete Unknown, Conclave, Emilia Perez, and Wicked. The movies with the best chance of winning tonight are Honora and Wicked, I still think, but Conclave, they're the top three. I think A Complete Unknown and Amelia Perez are 4 and 5 in this equation. Stunt Ensemble, I could see Deadpool and Wolverine winning that. I could see Dune Part 2 winning that for the fandom. Fall Guy, maybe. Gladiator 2, I'd be a little surprised at this point. And then Wicked, people could just vote for Wicked. So that'll be interesting. I don't know who I would put money on for Stunt Ensemble because that could really go in one of almost all those directions. So that's the SAG Awards tonight. We'll see what happens. It's 8 o'clock. Kristen Bell hosts on Netflix. Before we go, I also want to mention friends of mine and Critics' Choice have had a podcast for a long time called Real Blend. Jake Hamilton, Kevin McCarthy, and Sean O'Connell. They are ending the Real Blend podcast this week after 7 years and something like 340 episodes. They're good guys. They put a lot of work into that podcast. So many interviews, great interviews, in-depth conversations about movies and movie making that they've done over the last 7 years. Got a lot of attention. Clips have been shared on social media in various ways of great sound bites, conversations, moments, and a lot of fun that they had. They put a lot of work into that podcast and built up a great fandom for it. And it is ending this week, so I just want to say congratulations to them on a great podcast, the Real Blend Podcast. When we're back here next Sunday at 12 p.m. Eastern, it's Oscar Day. Finally. We're going to do predictions in all 23 categories. I have to finalize them by midday tomorrow. And we'll break down who's going to win on Oscar night. Conan O'Brien hosts the Oscars next Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern. At noon Eastern, we'll be here for LCJ Live. Predictions, all the categories. You'll get my predictions in various ways on social media and other outlets this week. Probably a blog post as well at lights-camera-jackson.com. X at LCJ Reviews. Instagram at lightscamjackson. If you're watching here on YouTube, thank you. Subscribe to the channel. Thanks for being here for LCJ Live. And we'll talk about the box office for these smaller movies. I think Captain America will likely win again for Oscar weekend. But we'll talk about box office and then get into these Oscar picks next Sunday. Thanks for being here for LCJ Live. Have a good week. We'll see you in the month of March. We'll see you for the Oscars. Enjoy the SAG Awards tonight. Bye-bye.